From Forex Traders Daily, this is your daily analysis with Ross Mullins, live from Richmond, Virginia.
Hello everyone, this is today's video analysis for May the 6th, 2016. In just a moment, I'll be taking a look at each of the U.S. currency pairs in anticipation of today's news. Of course, today we have several pieces of data that could highly impact the market and cause the market to be massively volatile and move in both directions, given the fact that we have three distinct separate pieces of news that could hit and change the sentiment of the market. If it's all correlated in a positive manner for the U.S. dollar, we could see a singular direction and a boost for the U.S. dollar. If it's all correlated negatively for the U.S. dollar, if it's all poor news, we could see it move massively in the opposing direction, a sell-off of the U.S. dollar. So we definitely want to watch that. If there's a mix of data, then it could be a whipsaw back and forth as the market tries to digest that information. So be very cautious during today's news. It's important that you likely would want to protect any profits that you have right now. If you are in any trades as I am, protect that profit, move stop losses into profit to protect as much profit as possible. And also maybe even closing some just to be sure you bank some of the profit. We could see widening of spreads. We could see platform lockout. That's happened before. We could see stop losses slipped a little bit during this high volatility news. So definitely take some caution if you're into profitable trades. If you're not in a trade, it might be prudent to wait until we get past this news to figure out what the market's going to do with it. So let's dive into this and see what we might expect for the day today. Of course, here on the USD CHF, we've been in a trade for a couple of days now from the 95.40 level. Took a buy on clues and evidence of intraday reversal. We saw the hammer candlestick down at the bottom of the run from last week. We saw a little bit of a sell-off last week, made a low, rapidly pulled back and left this hammer candlestick down here at the very bottom of the downtrend. So with that, we started looking for buying opportunities into the mid 9500s, and it's been a very profitable situation. Currently sitting 140 pips of profit on the remaining portion. We've already closed some profit, but on the remaining portion, currently sitting 140 pips locked in. Stop losses right now at 50 pips of profit. So can't lose on the trade. I just want to be sure that it's going to continue to move in this direction before I make any new trading decisions here on the U.S. franc. Of course, it's been moving higher. Positive news for the U.S. today. In about 35 minutes from now. Positive news sends this back higher again. Negative news sends it back lower again. Definitely watching for that direction after today's news. Moving over here to the euro dollar, just the opposite. We've been selling this and shorting it from the shooting star candlestick that happened a few days ago up here at the pink shaded area at the top of the chart into the 1.1500 level. Began selling it at the pink shaded area and are currently sitting about 75 pips. We saw a little bit more than this. We've seen over 100 pips of profit on this trade, but definitely have closed some profit, protecting the rest of the profit, protecting the rest of the trade with the stop loss, expecting widening spreads, high volatility. Definitely would consider, if you want, if you're in this trade, to close the trade with profit to be sure to bank this profit. And of course, positive news for the U.S. sends this currency pair lower. Negative news sends it back higher again for the euro dollar. Moving on to the GBP, we have been hammering away at the 14500 level all week long. 2 or 3 or 4 trades here into 145. We've seen decent amounts of profit. Currently, out of this, it went back up and knocked me out at my locked into profit stop loss here on the currency pair. So currently out of it, and I'll likely stay out of it until we get that news for the U.S. today. Zoom it down to the 4-hour time frame. Again, we've been hammering away at underneath side of that orange shaded area, the 4500 1.4510 level, and selling it every time it comes into there. And of course, profit made on those dips lower, 35, 40, even 80 pips of profit on this dip right here. So significant profits made. I hope that you've been able to capture that. Now waiting for direction. Negative news for the U.S. sends this back higher, likely breaking back above the orange shaded area in the 4,500 level. Positive news sends this back lower. Of course, earlier this week, we've had 3 distinct pieces of news out of the UK that have been bearish and poor information for the UK. That's what we've been selling on. Of course, now we're going to wait until we get this U.S. data before we determine our next direction here for this pair. Moving over to the U.S. CAD, information here coming out of both Canada and the U.S. today, so very volatile expectations here for this currency pair. Of course, the U.S. will likely take a little bit more precedent over the Canadian data, but definitely watching both countries, the employment numbers out of Canada and the U.S. jobs numbers. We'll definitely watch both of those, but this currency pair in particular could be very volatile. Of course, positive news for the U.S. continues the upside pressure we've seen earlier this week. Negative news sends it back down, and of course, continue to watch that Canadian data as well for some direction here on the U.S. CAD. Moving over to the U.S. yen, it's been kind of stuck. Let me take it down to the 4-hour time frame. Been kind of stuck around this blue shaded area for the past couple of days. Of course, today's U.S. data will likely be the catalyst for change here on this pair. Positive news sends this back higher. Negative news out of the U.S. sends this back lower again. And I think that will be the catalyst for change here. Maybe a continuation of the downward slide after the BOJ last week, but any significant positive news on all three pieces of new data out of the U.S. could see this start to turn back higher once again for the U.S. yen. Over here on the AUD/USD, of course, we've had a downward slide beginning with the cut of interest rates earlier this week out of Australia. It's just continued to pressure lower. Yesterday broke down through our supports. Let's go ahead and zoom it in here a little bit. We spoke about these three supports back here, the blue circles. It settled around there yesterday. It settled around there, and now we see a significant fall back down on more news and the continuation of the downward slide. 4-hour time frame, we spoke about the fact that it was underneath this orange zone, looking for that continuation lower, and it just has now continued to go down. Again, positive news out of the U.S., back to the daily time frame, positive news out of the U.S. reaffirms this downward fall and this bearish pressure here for this pair, and we look for it to continue to move down into the 7300s. Negative news out of the U.S. may see some pullback and a turn back higher for the Australian dollar. NZD/USD, similar situation. It's continued to pressure much lower, now at the bottom of this trend range. We've been talking about this rising trend channel between the two red trend lines. Spoke about it a good deal yesterday in the live trade room. Take a look at that blue zone. We're right at the bottom of that trend channel, the red trend line. The blue shaded area has been historical support and resistance. It's a significant decision point. If we get some positive news out of the U.S., we look for it to break down through the 68.35 level, the blue zone, the red trend line, and continue that bearish pressure. Any negative news out of the U.S. likely looks for this to go back up again for the New Zealand dollar, at least for the day today on this currency pair. So definitely watching today's news for our direction. I don't suggest trading anything prior to the news. If you're in trades, as I am, protect profit, maybe even close those trades if you are looking to bank that profit. And be very cautious as we go into this news. And then if they all three correlate in the same manner, either positive or negative, that will give us an opportunity to jump into the market. If there's a mix, we'll have to be very cautious in watching that volatility today for the U.S. currency pairs.
From Forex Traders Daily, this has been your daily analysis with Ross Mullins. If you would like to get Ross's analysis on all the currency pairs he's watching and all the trades he takes today, join him in his live trade room by clicking on the link below. Please leave any comments you have about today's video in the comments section below.